From the iHeartRadio studios in New York City, come fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else distorted. 'Cause you know what the fuck you are! This is Appetite for Distortion. Try it again!
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. My name is Brando. Episode 44. Holy shitballs. I can't believe I've been doing 44 episodes of talking about Guns N' Roses. First, before we get to my co-host slash guest for episode 44, first got to send out a quick thank you for episode 43 to Rod Jackson, of course, from Slash's Snake Pit. What an awesome conversation we had, and he said he's sending me a gift. He asked for my actual snail mail address, so he may be sending me his solo record or a severed head. I don't know what he's sending me in the mail. Hopefully it's not a severed head.
If it's a severed head, I'm going to be very upset.
So if you haven't listened to that episode, he gives great information about recording with Slash. And I got to thank news outlets that picked it up, especially alternativenation.net, that Rod mentioned that Chris Cornell once auditioned for Slash's Snake Pit. So that was kind of cool to imagine, perhaps in an alternate universe, in the multiverse, perhaps there is another version of Slash's Snake Pit with an alive Chris Cornell and Slash. But let's not go down that depressing route. Let's get into well, actually, this conversation might get depressing at times, but we're going to keep it as fun and interesting as possible. Because on the phone with me right now is someone that I've been wanting to talk to, not just since I've had a Guns N' Roses podcast. Roxana Shirazi. First of all, you can say hello, so you're not just sitting idly by.
How do you do?
How do you do? Oh, that was very Mary Poppins of you. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you very much. It's nice to talk to you.
You're calling from the UK, right?
Yeah, here. It's really dark and late, and it's like one of those gothic Edgar Allan Poe January evenings.
Ooh, I like it. I envision the UK constantly being like that, and rain, yeah.
Rainy, but it's January. I love gothic, sort of like dark evenings. I love that. I'm a huge fan of Poe, so I write better when it's long evenings like this. I don't write very well in the summer because it's all happy and cheery, and I'm very creative when it's all gothicy and dark outside.
I get that. And I'm not going to compare myself to you because you've actually published a book and working on your second one, which we'll get to. But when I've attempted to write my book, I mean, I have 30 pages, and I will get back to it at some point, but it's always about that atmosphere. So, and you've lived in a lot of different atmospheres. So again, I want to get to that a little bit. But with Roxana Shirazi, this was years ago when I first started my radio career, and I was working up in Cape Cod. And there was probably like a 2-year period when I was really into reading rock star autobiographies. The first one I read, and this was like actually my first radio job, when I had to do a 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. shift, and I'm sitting on the subway in the train, I'm reading The Dirt. And that was like my introduction to, I don't want to say books, I'm not illiterate, but it was like it instilled this reading phase in me. And that's when I got Slashes, and that's when I got Tommy Lee's, and both written by, I believe, a friend of yours, right? Anthony Boza, who co-wrote those?
Yeah. Anthony wrote both of those. He's done a few. He does a lot of celebrity sort of biographies, and so does Neil. Neil's done Marilyn Manson's book as well.
Yeah, Neil Strauss, right?
Yeah. They've both done a lot of rock and roll sort of biographies.
And this all ties together, which is it's just weird. It's all, again, what this podcast is, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, GNR Bacon, whatever you want to say. So years ago, I'm going through this reading phase. So I picked up Slashes, I picked up Tommy Lee's. I picked The Game, which was Neil Strauss's. And this was a time in my life, and this is why it's interesting for me to talk to you or at least quote unquote have you in my life in different phases of my life.
Oh, you're so sweet. I want to give you a cuddle and a big kiss.
Oh, well, next time you'll come in studio, we'll do that. All right.
I love New York. I went to New York University, and I loved my time in New York, and it's my favorite city in the US. And next time we'll go and have some intellectual debates together.
Yeah, and this will be the first one. That's what I want this to be, because there were, and I told you off the air, some people that were concerned about this episode because they may not know your book.
Rednecks that live in trailer parks.
Something like that, yes.
I hate uneducated people. Some people are uneducated because they don't have the means, which is fine. But some people are deliberately misogynistic and hate women hating people. It just it's like living in the witch trials of the 16th century. Let's bash women because men are more superior. Yes.
It's definitely a very weird world that we're living in now, especially with all the MeToo stuff. And, again, that's what we want to talk about because the MeToo things are happening now, not so much in the rock world. I mean, you hear about Gene Simmons, surprise, surprise, but your book has been out for a long time covering a lot of these topics, which was in addition to the GNR ties, another reason why I just wanted to talk to you. So going back to the different phases of my life when you, quote unquote, have been in my life, early 20s, very still kind of shy to talk to girls. I would go on dates. I'd have girlfriends, but it really wasn't, I don't want to say a prude, but I definitely, your book would kind of shock me. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy a book that says slut on it. That's just wasn't me. I was not a Howard Stern fan. It's
not me either. I didn't choose that title.
Well, well, that's interesting, but it's the subtitle and everything else is what needs to be focused on anyway. So I see this book in the corner of my eye, and it has a Guns N' Roses logo on it. And I'm like, who is this trying to, quote unquote, trying to get money off Guns N' Roses? And then I find out about more about you. But I'll backtrack a little bit with the Neil Strauss thing. And if people don't know and have read his book, The Game, it's basically the Bible if you don't know how to talk to women. But it's more of not just like a how-to, because he even explains, and there's a lot of rock and roll stuff in there, stories about Courtney Love, and it's more of just how to manipulate women and how he just needed to get out of it because it was gross. Like
how to fuck women without really trying.
Yeah, and just taking advantage of them. And again,
doing on them.
It was interesting to me, and it gave me confidence just because Neil Strauss is, I guess kind of like me, 5'6". I finally shaved my head. He shaved his head. So, I mean, there were like little things here and there. So when I saw this book with the GNR logo on it, that's yours, and it's a childhood photo of you, right, with the burqa on?
Yes, that's the cover. That's the cover that's banned in England.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the original cover. Me as a 10-year-old in Iran, and my passport photo, and that is the original cover. And England wouldn't let any bookshops have it. Wouldn't let us bring it here. It's it's just there's no freedom of expression in this country.
Interesting, and I guess obviously can't help but think of the parallel with Guns N' Roses and their initial cover and that being banned. But as we will get into, they obviously inspired you in more ways than one. So when I found out more about you and, it had Anthony Bozza, kind of, I don't know if he was in the same publisher as you, and Neil Strauss kind of helped you a little bit with your publication. I'm like, all right, I like their books. I respect their opinions. I got to find out more about this girl, this woman. And when I left, I'm like, okay, The Last Living Slut, born in Iran, bred backstage. And just the more I read about it and who you are, and it's a word that we can probably start here and just dismiss it right away, is the word groupie.
Groupie. I mean, I don't want to. I'm the rock star. I have my own groupies.
Right.
But too wild to be a groupie. Groupie is a very subservient, secondary role. I want the main role. I want to be the one that does things and people do things for me. Why would I want to be a kitten when I'm a tiger? Why aspire to be a sort of secondary role? Surely you want to be. I mean, I don't understand this women who want to be groupies, because it's like saying, I want to be the servant, not the master. Do you know what I mean? It's really alien to me. And I kind of like the idea that you're the rock star. You're the one that's amazing, does things in the world that break barriers, break taboos, are an activist. That's what, constitutes a rock star for me. I don't necessarily on a stage, groupie
Right.
to me is like being a housewife. Nothing wrong with housewives, mind, but it's just not for me.
No, I got it. And again, reading through your different relationships, and I know I'm just giving a quick overview now at the beginning of it. Your approach, I mean, and to meeting a band and to meeting a guy, it was sometimes just different, where you fall in love with somebody, and just like me, I'm attracted to the rock star life, but I can't play an instrument, so I became a radio DJ because I suck. So I figured, okay, let me play music on the air since I can't play it on the stage, but I like being in that world, and then hanging out with my friends in local bands. And I never lied about any of that. I don't pretend to be in the band. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. And I never got that instance from you. And I really related. Obviously, I did not grow up in Iran. I grew up in, Jewtown, Long Island. But just being, being, I don't know, not confident in yourself and your how you were through your adolescence. And I told you off the air, and I'll bring it up here, and I don't want to have my interview skills to be like this. I watched your interview with the Young Turks, who were mainly political based show, and it was just I'm just trying. He didn't, when you first said like your parents were like political prisoners, he was like shocked by that. It's like, did you read the book even? Because he just kept wanting to focus like, did you sleep with Axel? How many band members did you fuck? So I kind of want to get a sense.
Guns N' Roses is what I get all the time.
And what did I say to you off air? I don't give a shit. Like,
do you know what it is? It's just so boring to me. It is so boring. I can't even. I'm doing my PhD in gender theory and political theory. If people ask me about fucked all of Guns N' Roses, it's like whatever. It's kind of. I put myself forward. I took a great risk in writing a book that was a performance of dissent, to challenge dominant narratives and to break boundaries and taboo, especially for women. It was on so many levels. This was me putting myself almost like a performance art exercise, whereas I am writing about taboo issues in Iran, child sexual abuse, domestic violence. I am deconstructing commonly stood norms about gender, about being a Middle Eastern woman, and about the rock and roll world, the myths that surround the rock and roll world. I was actually unpacking them and trying to, I didn't do myself any favors because I was open to attack, because women's sexuality is so problematic in the 21st century. It's like living in Saudi Arabia when you're in the West. Women's sexuality is the vilification and demonization of women taken to an extreme. Men are idolized for extreme acts of misogyny and sexual misconduct, and because they are famous. Women aren't. Women are absolutely demonized. So I kind of. But this book, it wasn't just about the music. It was about gender issues, about identity issues, about child sexuality, about racism. When I came to England, I was constantly racially bullied. And I put myself raw out there. And I wasn't happy about the title. It was nothing to do with what the book was about. And Neil Strauss was very adamant that I should have that title.
That was his idea.
But I was like, I don't understand what it is. I don't. And so I had to write an introduction about what the term slut means in this society. Whore and slut are applied to women because they are the bad guy. They are bad for wanting to have sex. Men, no, it's part of their masculinity. It's nature. Women, no, you're evil. You're like a pedophile if you have lots of graphic sex. Men, no. Oh, yeah, what a stud, what a rock star, So I wanted to kind of pose the question of why is this in this society that there's so many stupid people. So I put myself out there, and I think it's a very courageous thing for me to do because I knew I would be open to attack. So it was so much stuff about so many issues, and this people think that rock and roll is this place. It's not. Maybe in the 60s with Led Zeppelin it was a bit debaucherous and free-spirited with the Rolling Stones. It's not now. It's a very sanitized kind of misogynistic office where women's role is actually demoted to a kind of a different, at a lower sort of level than a man. It's not this free-spirited utopian place where everyone can be anyone, be happy, free love, free sex, party. It's not that place at all. It's extremely asexual and sanitized place. It's not, and sex is such a huge secret. It's a taboo. Sex is taboo, and it's made into an extremely secretive concept. People like Jimmy Page and Robert Plant used to talk about the girls they were with. It was an open thing. I slept with her. The Stones guys did that. In the 60s and 70s. The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, all of this, and then even sort of 80s, we come to Motley Crue and the Guns N' Roses era. They openly talked about women that had sex, but now it is like you lock it up. You lock up sexuality. You don't talk about it. It's so. It's like literally, it's like Saudi Arabia.
We're in a weird place here in America as far as what you can say, what you can't say, what's consent, what's not consent. I mean, we shouldn't be having these conversations. I mean, there are, there are miscommunications that happen. But I mean, again, we'll get into this as with this conversation to continue. But I want to take a few steps back, and I don't want to ruin the book for anyone who hasn't picked it up because it's been out for a while, and shame on you if you haven't read it yet, especially if you're a Guns N' Roses fan. Even though there are some hard things to read in there about some of our favorite GNR people. So without giving, I guess, anything away too much, let's start back. When you were left, because you were raised, your parents raised you, right? And then it was your grandmother that you left Iran with. So, again, I don't want you to give too much away, but just a little bit of a background to where we are, how we got to where we are now.
I was born in Iran in 1973, and my mother. I didn't really have a dad. My dad was a drug addict, but my mom was a massive political activist. I went to prison with her as a political activist when I was 6 months old. And from then on, my childhood was beautiful. Iran is beautiful. I mean, fruit trees everywhere. There's a massive, beautiful Persian culture of a very family-focused culture of support. And it's kind of like Mediterranean Italians, how Greeks are. And I was surrounded by family, but it was a time of the revolution. So there was a lot of political activity, and I would frequently go and visit my mother's side of the family in prison because they had demonstrated against the Shah, the king. So I was brought up through that. I was given my first political book for children when I was 6.
I had Hop on Pop, which is pretty much the same thing.
But no, I had a very intellectual mother, and I had a very intellectual uncles, and they really educated me from a young age. It was very important for them that I have the mass possible and be aware of human rights, about injustice, inequality. That was really, really instilled in me from a young age. So yes, and then my grandmother was a huge presence in my life. She was extremely maternal, very happy-go-lucky lady, extremely beautiful and stylish. And then I was sent to England, and she accompanied me, and then she died. So I was very alone in England as a 10-year-old, and I was bullied constantly. I was called the N-word a lot. I didn't even know what it meant, and I had to look up in the dictionary and go, what does that word? And I was like, well, I'm not black, but anyway, they called me that. And it was really funny because I was such a geeky, well-read child, and they used to bully me because I was geeky. So,
see, I identify with that part of it. Yes.
Yes, I thought that in order to make friends, I started wearing skirts and with no socks or anything to show my legs, and I got more friends that way. It's so funny.
Yeah, me
but
too.
Yeah, so that was kind of my up to the age of 10, 11, and then I started living in England.
During that time when you're learning about culture and activism, were you listening to music at the same time? Did your mother or your grandmother instill any sort of music in you at that time as well?
Well, my grandmother had died when she came to England.
Well, I didn't know if anything before. I mean, growing up, was there an Iranian version of like Raffi or something? What did you listen to when you were like a little kid?
Iranian music.
Okay, all right. I was trying to see where the path of how it got to GNR being your first love. So that's where I'm going with it.
Well, so when I was in England, I really liked. I was in love with George Michael.
Okay.
And Michael Jackson, and I discovered Guns N' Roses sort of quite early on. But it wasn't. I wasn't listening to the music. I was looking at Axl, and and getting kind of sexual feelings. I was about 11 or 12, so, maybe a bit older. But then I started to get into their music. I was still a bit scared of them.
Okay.
I mean, they were quite. I mean, it wasn't like something. I listened to Madonna. I wanted to be like Madonna. I thought she was very strong. Didn't give a shit. But I liked Guns N' Roses. But at the time, I knew. I listened to them. But it was mainly Axl Rose that I was in love with. So, yeah. And he gave me my first orgasm. I mean, not him literally, because he's not a pedo. But I had my first orgasm because I was about I was pretty young and looked at him and sort of made myself come from Axl Rose's image.
I think not like anyone cares, but it's probably more funny. But I think my first was to Topanga from Boy Meets World.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. Well, if you want to know that, now you do.
Topanga, my honey. May I call you honey? No.
So then that's interesting because for me, again, growing up in the path of how I became a GNR fan and eventually doing a podcast about it, just like you, my mom tells me the story of when I was 2 years old dancing to Wake Me Up Before You Go in my crib. So I was George Michael, I was Michael Jackson. As I got older, Green Day. Then, of course, GNR. There was something that resonated to me about Axl and about Slash. So you obviously had that too. So was it in addition to it being a sexual experience, did that make you want to go more into that world of being in rock and roll? Was that kind of the same experience in your mind to you?
I was very geeky I was very sexual as a child, very, very sexual. But I didn't have sex until I was 24.
But you had, unfortunately, I want people to read, but you had some, I don't know how to phrase it, but you had things happen to you when you were a child.
No, but what there's the age-old question: what came first, chicken or the egg? I don't think that made me sexual.
Oh, I wasn't even implying that. I was just saying in general things that have happened to you. Again.
No, but I don't think people think you're sexual because you're abused.
That is true. That is true. I did get some of those questions. And it's so offensive to me, and it's so offensive to women who are sexual and haven't been abused. Why does there have to be a reason for women to be sexual? Do you go and ask Tommy Lee, why was he abused? Because you're so sexual, Tommy Lee. You're right.
Were you abused as a child? Well, because why are you sexual? There's got to be a reason.
You're right.
We live in such a backward world. It saddens me immensely. There's got to be a reason. But anyway, no, I wasn't like that. I didn't want to go into that world. I wanted to read lots of books I wrote my first book when I was about 14 about the street kids of Brazil. And I just loved writing and reading and being a geek, I wasn't into like going out to clubs or bars. I was really scared. I was always at home.
So in the end, you always wanted to be an author? Did you always know, or poetry, or just something in writing?
I wanted to be an actress. I went to theatre school as a child, and then I went to drama school when I was an adult, and I did a lot of plays. I was very shy with people, but when I was on stage, I came to life. I loved, that was where I felt more comfortable on a stage.
I got you. And like I said, I read your book like 7-8 years ago, so I didn't want to reread it because I wanted to be surprised by certain things. So I don't want anyone listening like, he said he read the book. How does he not know that? Like, so it's been a while. I can barely remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
It's okay.
So then when did that kind of cross paths with you? If you were still nerdy and geeky and you didn't want to go out to clubs, but you're double clicking your mouse to Axl poster of Axl, that was probably not funny as I thought it was in my head. When did those worlds meet? Did it take a while? Well,
yeah, definitely.
So when was it? Like, what was your first concert? Do you remember what your first concert was? What that experience was like?
I didn't go to concerts. Honestly,
sure.
I listened to music. I loved the Doors. The Doors were my first kind of absolute adoration of Jim Morrison. I was about 15 or 16. And then Leonard Cohen, because I love lyrics. Lyrics have to be extremely beautiful and poetic. Right. I always loved Sylvia Plath, and I loved anything that resonated with me, and it was Leonard Cohen and Jim Morrison's poetry. So that's important for me, and that's when I started to go into the doors. Leonard Cohen, both I absolutely have adored, and then I didn't really go to any concerts, to be honest. It's really strange, isn't it? I just wasn't that kind of outgoing. I had so many problems at home. I was getting beaten a lot by my stepfather. I ran away from home. I was about 15. And then I went to London and became a stripper. And in my school uniform, which weirdly. And the thing is, I was really had a kind of a double life, because inside I was very well read and shy. But the only thing that made me come out was if I was on a stage. And I remember doing a lot of talent shows. I was, doing a lot of singing and stuff. And I wasn't shy when it came to that. But when it came to people, I was quite painfully shy, So I never went to concerts, did normal teenage stuff at all.
Where do you think the shyness came from? Was that?
I've always been really shy.
But like you said, I mean, you weren't really shy. But where do you, with that double life, where do you think that the double life came from?
I am actually a really shy person. I'm not easy around people. I'm easy if I'm on a stage or on a platform where I'm performing. This Roxana persona, it is like a performance. The real me is I like to sit at home, make food, do a bit of knitting, sit in my pajamas. I'd love to be a housewife. That's the real me.
Okay.
The persona, like the Roxana performance, is like a alter ego. I need to do it because there's definitely a extrovert side to me, but it's a performance. I'm not extroverted in life. That's why when I lecture at universities, I teach, I feel comfortable because I have people to say things to. But if you put me in a house party with people, I don't like it at all.
I'm the same way. I prefer Brandon in real life. I know I say Brando, whatever. That's just the radio thing. It just sounds cooler, I guess. And then Brandon, Jewish kid, and talking on the radio. Brando just sounds more rock and roll. But if I'm out in a party, I'm very shy. I'm very reserved to myself. But once a microphone goes on, I don't know. I feel like Weekend at Bernie's. I just kind of just do it. I just do it. It just kind of happens. So I can relate to that as well. I never stripped. I don't have the abdomen for that though.
No, it's fine. And I disappoint a lot of people because they think that people who have read my book, or people, well, not people who have read my book, because people who've read my book see that I'm quite political and quite anti-misogyny and I'm an activist. But people who meet me who think I'm a fun rock chick, they're sorely disappointed, I tell you. I'm not that persona. I'm not at all.
I think it's quite charming because, again, I was watching different interviews with you yesterday in addition to that Young Turks one. I think one was with I want to say it was with the late Alan Combs. Might have been on Fox.
Oh, Alan.
Yeah.
So sad.
He went to my college. He went to Hofstra as well. But he's even kind of asking you, he seemed surprised about you. That they expect this crazy chick to come in hanging off a chandelier, just rock stars on each one of her arms, and you're just like this. You're a normal woman. You're normal. I mean, when you read your books, you're not normal in the best ways. But coming off, you don't come in like you're the female version of David Lee Roth. You don't it's. But
I think a lot. I've met every rock star probably there is, and not many of them are that person at all.
Right.
At all. So they are not. You think you get so you don't get disappointed, but you think, hey, you are like another human being. Is there somebody else that impersonating this guy? Because I've met so many people that I've loved, whose music I've loved. And music is the staple thing. We're talking about the lifestyle, but music is what people brings people together, and they love these rock stars for it. And then you meet those people and they're absolutely nothing like that persona at all. All these rock fans who listen to GNR Motley Crue, Van Halen, Kiss, or whatever, and then they just don't know. They don't know. But
No.
they think these people are proper rock stars. Honey, I've got news for you, man.
Well,
oh my God, they're like my dad.
Well, that's another reason why I want to do this podcast. It's like, yeah, I love, Axl and Slash and rock and roll, but these are all people. And to go deeper, and it coincides with your lyric comment, is just to go deeper behind the people who wrote these lyrics, who made these pieces of music, because it's not, there's more to it than what's just on the cover, so to speak. So when did you, unless I'm missing something, you can tell me and just interject, but when did you, I guess, decide, maybe I want to meet a rock star, I want to meet somebody?
I didn't. It happened by accident.
It happened by accident. Okay, so then take us through that.
To be honest, I just thought of, this is honest me saying it, I thought of rock stars as just dirty and drug-addled and beneath me. And that sounds really arrogant. I didn't think that, I thought I would want to meet an academic person or someone who I can actually have an intellectual conversation with. And I didn't think of, I want to meet, but it happened by accident, and it was like, it was just one of the members of Stereophonics at my friend's house. He was Stereophonics' manager, and one of the members was in his house, and it just was by accident, and I had fun. It was fun, and I just saw after that. Looking back, and then I went to see Velvet Revolver on the whole tour. I hung out with. I was on the whole Velvet Revolver tour in 2005, and then Stephen Adler's band, and I'm on tour again, went to Ireland, everywhere, and it just fell in. I don't know. I think it's because I wasn't desperately wanting that. I wanted to. You see, that's the reason, because I never went clubbing, and I never went to bars and stuff. Rock and roll became my escape from my geeky existence of quietness. It became like my stage. It was like fun, and I could be this persona, so I clung on to it. It was fun. I thought it was fun, but then sadly it's not the 60s and 70s, and it's certainly not the mid 80s. Everyone was sober and clean, and there was no debauchery, and I made the debauchery myself. I thought, fuck it, I want to have some fun now. I'm a bit old. I started quite old compared to a lot of people. So that's when I kind of let go. I lost my virginity at 24, and then I started my sort of, not wild, but I started coming out of my shell.
Sure. Then would you say, I know you met bands before Velvet, like bigger, like it's called bigger bands, Avenged Sevenfold, right? You became friends with them in Buckcherry before you met the Guns guys? Because, obviously it's the Guns N' Roses podcast, so I'm just trying to, again, just build a bridge there. Yeah,
I met Avenged Sevenfold. Buckcherry. No, I met Buckcherry after I met Guns N' Roses, and I can't remember. There's so many. I can't remember. I mean, there was Papa Roach was after that, and So.
Well, I want to give an insight to. I mean, yes, the GNR is on the book. On the cover of the book, and it's obviously the focal point of the podcast, but there's just a lot of other bands that are mentioned in the book that a lot of people would be interested in hearing about. So I just want to cover those bands as well. Just kind of mention them. We don't have to talk about it here, but there is one part of your story with Buckcherry that is heartbreaking, shocking. It needs a lot of setup, and to read your book is the best way to do it. And I don't think I would be doing it. I wouldn't be doing it justice. And you obviously know what I'm talking about. So I would just recommend to people to pick up the book and read her story from cover to cover, in addition to this podcast. But that particular scene with Buckcherry is something that is still instilled to me in this day, and just where your mindset was at and who you are as a person.
Human beings.
Absolutely.
Women aren't glossy Barbie dolls. Women are human beings. Some of them do certain things certain way. Some of them do certain things another way. Human beings aren't media cliches and Puritans or whores. Women are different shades of grey. Women are different, multidimensional. I mean, it's just so, when I read The Dirt, and
right.
That was like my rock and roll Bible, and the absolute graphic nature of sex that Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee talked about putting their dicks in burritos to hide the smell of pussy, putting telephone up girls' pussies, calling them mum, getting girls to squat over wine bottles, pissing on girls, everything. It was very graphic, right? And people, when they read that book, they're like, yeah, rock and roll, man.
They're making a movie about it.
Yeah, I know, but this is the thing. I don't know how they're going to make a film because, first of all, I was just saying that, people read that and they go, yeah, Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee fucking terror twins or whatever. Or is that Joe Perry and...
I think they were the Toxic Twins, right?
Anyway, so then they go, yeah, this is the epitome of rock and roll, machismo, real sort of male sexual dominance. This is what rock stars should be. And I thought, well, yeah, but I want that. I'm that too. So does that mean I'm wrong to be that? And I thought, no, I'm a human being where there is no right or wrong. Human beings make mistakes. Human beings do things they might regret. So when I wrote the book, I thought, I'm going to write it in a very honest way. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to gloss things over. I'm going to be a human being about this. And I was aware that women don't like women who are sexual. Women hate women who are sexual. I don't know why.
If you don't know, I don't know.
It doesn't make you a bad human being. Your sexuality doesn't define you as good, kind, boring, lazy. It's sex. Get over it. Whilst you idolize men like Tommy Lee or Marilyn Manson, you demonize women for doing the exact same thing. So check yourself in with your misogyny. Women are the biggest misogynists there is. Recently, I was involved with a very famous rock legend, who I won't name, and he's adored by a lot of people. And he was really nice, really sweet, very kind, but still stuck in that very cliche model of rock and roll, which hasn't evolved since Elvis, that he's himself wrote a book and people didn't like us being associated. They would email him and they would message him on social media and say, why are you, they somehow found, it was a secret, again, big secret. But I did see him at shows and people knew, we knew each other, but he was saying, don't put it on the internet that we know each other. And I'd be like, why? You should be proud that you know me. I'm a journalist, I'm an activist, and I do so much for women and humanity with all my activism.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, but you wrote a book. And I said, so did you? Because, no, mine is different. I'm like, why? Because mine was about relationships and stuff. So I was like, yeah, mine was too, but also because I'm a woman, it's not legitimate. And after that, I just blocked him out of my life because I just thought, you are so stupid. It's like living with the mullahs in Iran, the 1950s mentality about women. It is disturbing to me. So even nice rock stars are dickheads.
And when we were talking off the air, and I have a female therapist, and I like to think I'm a nice guy overall, but we all do dumb things. I know I've never done anything, incriminating, but I was telling you off the air, and I'll say it again now, because Tommy Lee, who wrote a book, and I read that around the same time I read yours. And I looked up to him and Axel. I mean, all these guys are so cool. They get all these chicks. I want to be that. I want to be in a rock band someday and all tattooed and have groupies. That sounds so cool. Because I was a moron. So when I'm reading that Tommy Lee licks girls' faces, like he licked Pamela Anderson's face, and obviously they eventually got married twice or divorced twice or whatever. And I would occasionally, to a female friend who I've known, not some random girl at a bar, I would lick the side of her face. And usually if it's a friend, they would just gross or just wipe their face. Like, I hope you enjoyed the taste of makeup, they usually would say. And then I remember telling my therapist that, and she got so mad. She's like, don't ever do that again. That is an invasion of privacy. And I'm like, I'm just being silly. I remember in the movie PCU with David Spade and... it's another guy who just got hit with MeToo crap. It was Jeremy Piven was in that. But George Clinton was in that. The Funkadelic were in that. Like every movie in the 80s had like a band in it. So this girl went, George Clinton, and he licks her hand. He's like, I'm sorry, just the dog in me, baby.
Oof. Just a dog in me, baby.
And I was like, that's so cool. And I did that to a girl once. And maybe because I'm partially handicapped or I'm small and no one yet's ever really threatened. But I guess I don't feel good about that stuff now. And I wouldn't do that stuff now.
Yeah.
That's such a lower level to probably, I'm sure, what you've experienced. So I feel that. And again, I only mentioned that they're coming out with a book finally for The Dirt. When I interviewed Nikki Sixx, he was literally my second radio interview ever. This is probably like 10 years ago. This was after 6 a.m. first came out. And this is how long the Dirt book the movie has been in the works. Finally, they do a casting. And you asked for questions. I'm asking listeners for questions. And some of them are like, is she just want to make a movie? Does she just want to make a movie about her life? And part of me is like, well, maybe. And also part of me is like, her fucking life deserves a movie. If you read The Dirt, it's the same shit. It's the same stuff. It's just a female saying it. And I told you off the air, and I'll say it again now. I just forget her name. The woman who wrote "I'm with the band now," or
Bar.
Right. So I got a response from a woman saying that your book, in contrast, was too over the top. But you can read an autobiography like Tommy Lee's, or you can read one like Peter Criss's.
Why are they comparing my book to Pamela Des Barres? I don't understand. Mine is about Iran and a lot of other things. Why don't they compare mine to Charles Bukowski?
Because they just see the title slut, knowing
I aspire to be Hunter S. Thompson. I aspire to be Virginia Woolf. I think my writing is a combination of Virginia Woolf and Hunter S. Thompson.
I agree, and I'm not. Again, I say this to every person that's been on. I don't blow smoke. I talk to you off the air. This is all genuine, whether it's Brando or Brandon, it's the same thing. That's the way I got it from you, like from the beginning. I've told for the last how long your book has been out, whenever I talk about your book, the way it's written is just so much more than the content itself. That's what I left with, more than just all these stories.
It's very... this is nothing against you, anything, but I find it sometimes a bit tiring to have to kind of constantly almost justify or defend myself in this day and age about a book I wrote about that involves some sexual event. It's just really, it's just very strange to me that I have to kind of defend it almost. I'm so involved in. I'm a journalist, and I've interviewed the Ku Klux Klan. I've traveled to Syria on my own. I've interviewed serial killer Richard Ramirez.
Oh.
I think about challenging things in life, not keep having to defend me having sex. I'm thinking about what's happening in the world now, a divisive America. I'm thinking about kind of race relations. I'm talking about Brexit, or what makes someone a serial killer, or what's going on in Syria, or where my next teaching job is going to be. I just can't keep saying, oh, well, women can have sex. Sorry, we don't live in the 16th century anymore. This is not Saudi Arabia. I mean, I want to discuss real things in life, you know?
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And I was really disappointed with some of the, some questions were great. And this one was fun and you laughed. We had a fun little Twitter exchange that someone asked, they put a picture of Izzy. And we'll get back to the serious part. I just need comedic relief just for a moment. They put a picture of Izzy and they said, "Is this true?" And he looked like he had a gigantic bulge. And there's another one of my followers came in that said, "That's a fanny pack." And you're like, "Why would he have a bag on his vagina?" And here in America, fanny means butt.
That's funny.
And for you, it means vagina. And then I'm getting messages from listeners in Ireland saying that they sell a bum bag. It's not called a fanny pack. So I guess, what did they call it? It was like Izzy Geddon or Izzyconda. I think that's what they were calling it. that it's a myth. That it was just a fanny pack that we know means what it means now. On the front of his pants that made him look like he had a giant dick. So I would get questions like that are funny, but
I like that. It's fun.
Right, but then I would get ones, and again, I was disappointed, and I don't want to ask you these things, but is she just going to you for a movie, or she thinks she's an author now? I'm like, she thinks she's an author? She's been, again, you just writing books since you're a teenager. You went to Oxford, you teach lectures, and it pisses me off. because again, these are in Guns N' Roses groups, you know, and I realize this isn't Adler's book. This isn't Duff's book that is, I guess, quote unquote, required reading for the GNR fan. But in a way, it should be. And anyone who has read the book and would see my comments were like, hey, you know, you got to read her book. She has her. It's more than what it seems to be. So that's why I wanted to get this across. And you were absolutely one of the first people on my mind to do an interview with when I started this podcast. So I'm cool. It's finally happening. So I'm with you on all of this, and I'm not just saying, oh, I'm a man. Yeah, I'm gonna be on your side. Like a lot of men seem to be kind of afraid to say anything now.
In life, there's going to be very stupid people, and I've realized that. And you just have to pet them on the head and go and get, you know, just, it's okay, don't worry, go and, you know.
That's what I did. That's what I did. I said, I respect your opinion, you know, but I hope you listen to the podcast and or read her book. You know, we're going to get a lot of cool Guns N' Roses information and just information and intelligent conversation in general. And I just can't deal with people who just, I don't know, shut you out right away. So that's why it's interesting, though. Sorry to cut you off, but that's why it's interesting that you went with the title of your book, the fact that you don't even like it. Because I think that some people just see the title and make all these incorrect assumptions about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's there's stupid people everywhere. What can I say? That's what life is, you know. I mean, but on the other hand, I have had the most beautiful love from people, women writing to me from across the world, such great messages of love and support. And that's why I get to speak at conferences, women's conferences. I get to lecture at universities. If you know, I'm sure if my book was just that, I wouldn't be asked to do political lectures. I wouldn't be given a chance to do my PhD. I wouldn't be able to go and write for the Huffington Post about the Ku Klux Klan. And it's fine. I look at the positive. I've gotten so many positive things out of it. I've got my new book. And I'm doing a lot of very creative and political stuff, which I love, and that's what life is about.
Absolutely. So let's just go. Who's for Guns N' Roses is in the book? I know Dizzy Reed is a major focal point of the book, and I don't know. You can say whatever you need to say here, but just like with the Buckcherry story, I want people to read it because I think in context, it's not just me trying to sell books for you. You're fine by yourself. I just think within context and the way you write it is the only way for it to be is the best way for it to be digested. But who else? In addition to Dizzy, and again, whatever you want to say about him, or again, there's an interesting story about Matt Sorum in there. But who else?
Izzy and Axel, Stephen Adler, and. Yeah, don't forget there's people I don't write about. So let's just leave it at that.
Yes. Yeah. And that was something else that we'll talk about. Why the decision to name names or not to name names, because and I will piggyback on what you said. And I did get positive messages too. Believe me, it was very well rounded saying, oh, Roxanna's awesome. This book is great. She's kick ass, all of that. But the bravery and the courage it took, because I mentioned briefly before that I'm quote unquote working on a book about my life, but that takes a lot, right. You know, right. And especially for you, things that you went through your childhood and some of the things, you know, the bad sexual experiences that you had, that takes a lot. So the bravery to go into it, telling your story and then including other people.
Yes, I mean, obviously, when people look up to rock stars or movie stars, they think that they're immune from society's ethical and moral, you know, judgments and behaviors. You know, if you're that kind of level of fame, or even if you're kind of a lower level of fame, I think people, you know, they don't like to believe, like same as Woody Allen, you know, I don't like to believe that he molested his stepdaughter. People don't like to hear that these rock stars, you know, Jimmy Page slept with underage girls. Nothing has been done about that. Because he's Jimmy Page, and fame elevates human beings to a very artificial kind of platform, because human beings that do good for the world aren't elevated to that level. It's fame, whether it's actor or rock star, that you're elevated and immune from society's morals, and they can get away with so much. So in my book, yes, I did write about Dizzy and his abuse of me, because I thought, yes, this is just, what's happened. I kept all his texts, I kept all his emails, verbatim, I put it in there. So no one could say anything, because it was exactly his words to me. So yes, there is stuff about him. It was a pivotal moment in my life that it was somebody who pursued me, who really liked me, who didn't want me to not break his heart, but he became a big abuser of mine, and especially after I aborted his child. And his language to me about, he wanted me to kill myself, he wanted me to die, he wanted me to suffer, and it was extreme abuse, And I wrote that because I thought, well, he's a person, this is part of my life, this is what's happened, and he just happens to be a musician. And I think people who still play with him are complicit in this, because there's a big chapter on this, and they're okay with him, obviously, treating women in this way. It's not just me, other women came forward about their treatment of him. He's a massive abuser.
Do you believe, and I've never met the man, I've only quote unquote met you. Do you believe that people can, even from that bottom, can change? Because when you mention Jimmy Page, of course I think about now like Ted Nugent. He's on his high horse all the time, but didn't he like adopt a girl to be like his wife? Right. And Jerry Lee Lewis. So I mean, so these it's not. Yeah. So I mean, there was a point in our culture where it was okay, and then then it became taboo. Oh, older women going after younger men, that's weird. I mean, never on that extreme, at least I mean not as famously. But I guess I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe was it Al Pacino or Robert De Niro recently? Like there was something that 40 years ago that someone recently just said like. Yeah, it was Dustin Hoffman. Thank you. I don't know why they all blended into one actor for me. All white people look the same. I'm white. Maybe.
But you're a Jew.
Yes.
And you live in Jewtown.
Yes, in Jewtown, USA. Which is, I'm the worst Jew ever. I really am. But he
quite tight with money.
He had like his knee on this girl, and it's just a different time then. So I don't know. I can't, like, if he did it now, maybe it's different. So I mean, I don't know what Dizzy. I mean, it's not like this book was written 40 years ago, and I don't know if he's quote unquote changed. But if you believe that can happen, I can't think of. And again, like Kevin Spacey's getting help now. I can't. Right. I mean, he's probably doing it to try to save his career. I don't know if he's ever really going to change, because that seems to be another level of it. But if you take it to like mine, like I regret licking girls' faces. But like, would you hold that against me for the rest of my life? So if Dizzy or someone said, "Oh my God, I can't believe what I've done to you," I'm not trying to apologize to him for him. Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to give a hypothetical and where we can be as a society, because rock has not become dangerous anymore. Maybe people are afraid to be sexual. So I mean, I know it's a pretty loaded question I'm asking you. So I don't know. But do you see where I'm going with this a little bit? I don't. I
don't really care about him at all. But
then that's a fair answer.
No, I mean, I think what is important is that people really look into themselves and how fame is so important to people. Fame. You can't define a human being of how they are as a person by how famous they are. So just check that in with yourself. Just look at your favorite rock stars or movie stars. See that what if they abuse women? What if they do this? Would you still, when I like, for example, John Lennon is a classic. I know he used to beat his wife. I love John Lennon, and that really bothers me. I don't look at him the same way as I used to when I read about how he used to treat his wife. Or even, I love Jim Morrison, but I know he treated women like shit. I can't look at him in the same way. And that's because I don't evaluate a person by how famous they are. I look at or how their art or their music, how they're beautiful is. I'm going to have to look at them as a human being and what they have done. Yes, people can change, obviously. That's true. But I'm just saying people need to be aware that their favorite rock stars, that if they are abusive to women, if they do hurt women, and the things that they have to understand that world of misogyny is what constitutes rock and roll. It is what the essence of rock and roll is. It is an unequal kind of men are more superior, women are a bit inferior in things. Yes, it is that, and you need to be aware of it, and don't demonize women for doing what men do. As with Dizzy, I don't really care if he's changed or not. I just know he was my abuser. And so would another girl who came forward, Sabrina, who I wrote about in my book, and another girl. I don't really care. I just don't really think about him. But I just think that people should speak out if something happens. Don't think, oh, he's so famous, I should just comply with what happens. They should speak out if something is abusive, verbally, emotionally, physically, mentally, in whatever sense.
Well, that's what's happening now in the whole hashtag MeToo movement. Then let me ask this, because it bothers me. I mean, you're different because you came out with the book. You have, like you said, you printed out emails and text messages and other claims. But it is a little scary that you can just post something on Twitter and Facebook, and all of a sudden it's just out there without anything. So that is, does that bother you now? Or are you for that? Are you proud of your fellow women that are finally? I mean, obviously they're finally coming out. Pieces of shit like Harvey Weinstein are done, but there are some people that it may just be like Aziz Ansari. Was that just a weird date that went wrong, or does he deserve to have his name be in the same ballpark as some of these tapes?
It's the Hollywood casting couch has gone on since the beginning of Hollywood. Stars like Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, Marilyn Monroe, they all admittedly, they did say things about what sexual favors they had to do. And when Harvey Weinstein thing came out and all this Me Too movement, I think, of course, abuse is bad, sexual harassment and misconduct is bad. But if a lot of actresses, and I lived in LA. I was around a lot of the movie scene, and I went to Golden Globes. I met Harvey Weinstein. I met a lot of actresses, and they do sleep with producers to get a part. They do. It does go on a lot, and then years later they come out and say it was abuse. I'm sorry, but yes, abuse is abuse. But if you slept with someone to get a movie role, then you did that willingly. It was consensual. Okay. I'm not saying all these actresses who have spoken out did that, but I know it's such a big thing in Hollywood. I mean, as for Twitter and writing about someone, yes, there should be an investigation. My friend has filed a complaint about Marilyn Manson, who cut her, kept her locked up and stuff, and the police are dealing with it. Jeez. It's on her website, so I'm not just saying this. It's out there in the public. Okay. But
that's not good. I mean, he just fired Twiggy, so what, is he going to fire himself if something happens? She gets a lot of abuse from women who say, "You fucking whore." This what? She was abused and she's a prostitute. Then what? Really? Women these days disturb me, really. Women bash other women all the time. And, it's kind of like when in my book, people were saying this and this, but people can sue. If it's not true, sue that person. Right. Seriously. I had my lawyers were the same as a Guns N' Roses lawyers. My book's lawyers. Oh. HarperCollins is the biggest. HarperCollins don't want to get sued. No. They would have to pay a lot. So I had lawyers who were actually represented Guns N' Roses. They had to go through with a tooth comb, right? Check emails, check texts, check everything. Witnesses had to sign things. So because I can't just say anything about anyone. When I spoke about Sebastian Bach, there were loads of people there. He cheated on his wife all the time. I can't just say that out of the blue. I have to have proof and witnesses. Right. He did say, because that's Sebastian. I mean, I've asked him on the show. His manager said yes to me twice and doesn't get back to me. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bitter. But, I mean, there was a thing that, he denied it. But I mean, again,
course
it's
it's
like,
not. It's not
of
gonna
course,
say-
right. Like, everything you're saying, like, why would you do that without backup, especially HarperCollins? It's not like this is a, self-published book you put out on Kindle. I mean, this is fucking for real. So
I mean,
you wouldn't risk your
anyone
career.
could write anything and say anything, then if you can't sue, you can sue. If it's wrong, I would sue if someone wrote a false allegation against me. If he thinks it's false, he should sue HarperCollins. Get out there and do it, seriously. Because why would you want to put up with that? So hence why there was a lot of stuff I left out of the book, because my lawyer said you can't, because there's no proof.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean?
Sure.
There is stuff I did with I'm not going to say Guns N' Roses, but I don't, sometimes I don't want to, because I just decided not to. There is no story to it. I can't just say, oh yeah, I fucked this and that. It's just no story.
No, it wouldn't add to your story other than just to be sensationalist, right?
Yeah. And then, that's what I mean. So, lawyers, you're fucking, armed to the eyeballs with lawyers, HarperCollins.
Right. Or Tracy, I think Tracy Guns didn't like the story that was in there about him, but it's like
the Trection story. Oh, he loves it, really. He wants to do it again, don't you know?
I believe it. I believe it. Oh, that's too...
It's just so funny how sex is just so omitted in rock and roll. For God's sake, what happened to the debaucherous days of Led Zeppelin where it was free love and sex? And I was like, hush, hush about sex. It's so wrong and it's so taboo.
Then let me ask you. Then this is a good place to start as far as like rock and roll. Let's get into a little bit more of a fun conversation. What do you think rock is now? I know it's different overseas. I've spoken to Ryan Roxy from Quiet Riot, who lives in Switzerland. I've talked to fans in Ireland who, GNR is their lifeblood, but they may not care about Motley Crue and Aerosmith the same, or South America, of course. But here in America, it's really in a weird place, rock. So I don't know, is it the hypocrisy of what rock and roll is that we're finally realizing that, it's all this debauchery, but now we're in the social justice warrior age where, we like all that stuff, but, let's just stick with the classic. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, I don't know. I'm frustrated because I just want the music that I like to actually be heard on the radio, and it's not.
Right. In the age of AIDS, the internet, and corporate mass consumerism, corporate kind of world, rock and roll can't really germinate, it can't really flourish, because internet is a place where people, they will film things, they will write things. Obviously, with the age of AIDS, there is no such thing as free love and sex like it probably was, imagine, with the bands of the 60s and 70s, with Aerosmith and that's another thing with Steven Tyler. He's the type of guy that epitomizes rock and roll to me. He's like, all for free love and sex, and talking about the girls he slept with, and the girls join in. He's like, he should, people should look up to him. All these other guys I've met, they're just so they're so sort of, bereft of any spirit of rock and roll. So, and I've been backstage everywhere, and people are on their iPads drinking their chamomile tea. And, it's like a graveyard. Whereas there's bands like Rammstein who are mental, and they're just too much for me. I can't keep up with them. They're mental.
Oh, I want to see them. So they don't do many shows here in America, and every time, I don't know, it's like it's like a school night or I'm working or something. I still need to see them.
They are amazing performance. I love their music.
Don't they have giant dicks with fire coming out of them or something things crazy?
They're all trained in as firefighters or something, because they set fires to themselves. They have to put fires out. They've got giant dildos. They have all sorts of things. And I love the music and stuff. But backstage, after the shows, they party hard, and I've partied with them quite a few times, as I'm sure many girls have, and they're so German about it. You will come this way, and you will go here, and we will sit down, we will have some champagne, and it's so funny. No, Till the singer, he is too much for me, and he's in his 50s. I can't. His energy is ridiculous.
I love it. Then now I'm thinking there was a story, I think it came out maybe a few months ago, because Axl apparently is the only one who still goes out and parties until the wee hours of the night. And he was out with, oh my God, Tom Jones until like 6 a.m. Tom Jones, who's obviously like even older than he is. So were you at were you always with Dizzy? Or were you hanging out with Axl until 6 a.m? And I can't believe he's still doing this as well.
Axl was like when I was.
what you want to say, what you can't say, because I did put up.
No, it's not. I'm just thinking about Guns N' Roses guys because they've all seen my vagina, I think, and.
Well, I did post leading up to this interview. I posted an excerpt from your book about being with Sebastian, but then you were worried about Axl coming into the room.
Yeah, I really like. I don't know Axl personally. I don't know what he's like. He might be a complete misogynistic tool. I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I've always liked him. It's a childhood thing as well, and. But like I said, as you grow up, you have to know that you don't know these people as human beings. They could be dickheads. So, he did. He came in. I had a vibrator, and he signed my pussy, and but it got wiped off because of things that happened. But no, I'm sure he parties. I don't know.
It just obviously it being a GNR podcast, it made me think of that because you're like, Rammstein, they're only 50, and Axl obviously in his mid 50s. I think Tom Jones is in his 70s, and I like hearing those stories because you don't hear them anymore, unless it's like Wes Scantlin from Puddle of Mud, and he's just a mess. And I
met him once, and I thought he was so hot, and people thought it was crazy. I think he's so hot.
Well, he's in rehab now, so you might want to wait until he gets out to reconnect.
I like crazy guys like that, though. I know I talk about misogyny, but that I would never want them as my boyfriend. It's just to have fun with and then leave it because they all cheat. I've never met one rock star and a lot of them don't believe in monogamy, and they say, "I wish I could." I would like tell your partner this. Don't hide it. Don't just be honest. They don't know how to be honest. Rock stars. They like to live a lie all the time. And in terms of fun, I've found that those who are clean and sober, they don't have any sort of fun because I think it might trigger behavior that will lead to using again.
It's possible.
Yes. So the ones that don't, just think of all the ones who are clean and sober in your head. Those are the ones that don't at all do anything. They sit in there and watch CNN in their pajamas.
Probably Gene Simmons. He doesn't do anything, and he was recently critical of. He said he spoke with Scott Weiland and I want to say Chester before they died, and he's like, they promised me they wouldn't do drugs anymore, and I mean everyone's different. So I mean, I understand. I mean, it's okay if you want to be sober, but if you're a boring sober person, who wants that? At least smoke some pot or something.
But Brandon, I know for a fact from speaking to some of them who are sober that if they engage in any sort of fun behavior, even like hanging out with people, it could trigger them drinking or using, so they don't do anything.
No, you're right. It's people, places, and things. That's what I've learned from the meetings. I've gone to meetings before. People, places, and things. So I get it, and that's so hard to be in a band and do that. To be in it's drugs, sex, and rock and roll. It's the first two. Then you get to the rock and roll.
But with Rammstein, they know how to keep it. I don't think any of them are addicts. They're actually so intelligent. You can have mentally as well as sexually stimulated, which is fantastic because, so many rock stars don't know what they're bimbos. They don't. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but there's nothing to talk about.
I know.
But
I understand.
Sometimes you meet a rare rock star who can engage and talk about literature, politics, the arts, theatre, but you're also having sex. You're like, fucking great, man. And Rammstein are fucking great guys. They really lay it out. They host. They're such great hosts. You have such a great time. It's not some cheap, sleazy places. Beautiful places where there is all sorts of fun. There's girls, there's food, there's drinks. it's just a great laugh. And then funny thing you said about Gene Simmons. I was in somewhere with the singer of Rammstein, and I had a friend with me, and she was downstairs smoking, and she saw a bunch of guys come in, and she said, "Are you guys in a band?" They were like, "Yeah, we're in Kiss." And it was Gene Simmons. She totally brought him. She didn't know that, she didn't recognize them. I don't know why. She wasn't wearing her glasses or something, but I can't believe she brought him down a peg or two because she asked them if they were in a band. And it was Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. It's really funny. But yeah, they must have been pissed off that, she didn't recognize them.
Well, because they weren't wearing their makeup, probably.
Yeah, I don't know, but whatever. But no, there isn't, and there's hardly any of that goes on. And they're very, very, they kind of sit in their rooms in their pajamas and herbal tea. There we go.
Just how I envisioned a rock star would be. I'm unbelievable. So what has been the fallout since the book has come out? Because it's been a while. You've gotten a lot of different reactions. So what has your life been like since the title that you're not a huge fan of, The Last Living Slut, came out?
Well, so much has happened. I am doing my PhD. I lecture a lot at universities. I wrote my new book. I traveled to the Middle East on my own. I went to Syria on my own.
Is that what the new book is about?
Yeah, I'm on a blacklist. We're sort of a death list in Iran because of my first book. If I go there through normal customs and stuff, I would get put into prison and tortured and maybe executed.
Yeah, I literally, before we started taping, I got some Twitter messages saying, "Oh, can she tell us everything about Guns N' Roses, the first 5 original members?" And your response was, "I may be killed." And not many people say that and mean it.
Yeah, but everyone keep, this is more a political thing. I'm on a list in Iran because I'm an enemy of God,
Jesus.
to them. So I hired some smugglers and I went over the Turkish mountains on horseback illegally to Iran.
Just like you do, just like everybody does.
Yeah, just a normal vacation,
Yeah, this weekend. Unbelievable. So it's about that trek, and because I know you have a little bit blurb about it on your website.
Yeah, so this is, I still don't have a title for it, but basically what it is, it starts off with me on the border of Iran, and I'm in a Turkish village. I'm looking for a bit of tequila for courage and the morning after pill. And I am getting ready to cross the border illegally, and then it has flashbacks. So the flashbacks are of when I met the Ku Klux Klan in Alabama, and flashbacks of my time in the West. I used to date a big mafia boss, and in Vegas, and flashbacks of some rock and roll related stuff. I haven't named the person, but I had quite a profound sort of, shall we say, liaison with somebody, and
Okay.
yeah, and it was nice for a while, but again, he's a bit old-fashioned about women, so we say. But yes, it's got flashbacks to lots of things: rock and roll mafia boss, Ku Klux Klan, me living in a ghetto when I was a teenager, and so on, and ends up with me getting to Iran.
That sounds incredible. And I told you the first book, it was more than just, me. I mean, yes, the initial Guns N' Roses lore brought me to it, but I left with just a different impression. And all these years later, I'm talking to you. So I'm looking forward to your next book. But no rock stars in the next book? Any GNR references? I mean, the story sounds awesome regardless, but... You're
going to get me into trouble. I don't...
You don't have to say... You can say mum's the word. And that's it. That can be your... No, say no comment. That'll be it.
Yeah, I mean, just I have written about a sort of a liaison with somebody. Yeah, shall we put it? I haven't named this person.
Okay, then we'll leave it at that. I just want to let our listeners know who have either read your book already or are now going to get it. What to expect from the next one? Because I'm like I imagined they'll be impressed by your writing. so they'll want to read the next book anyway. But it's always nice to have a little GNR flavor in it. You never know. It's not. I'm sure I wouldn't take anything away, but it's a nice little spice to have every now and then. So,
well, let's put it this way: they, apart from the Doors, they're one of my favorite bands. So just use your imagination.
Okay, all right, I will. That's.
Can I just say one thing? But when you asked me about The Dirt and the movie,
Yeah, I want to know more about you. I want to know about your opinion, because that's a great parallel. Is their story and your story and how it's received?
well, I'm just, I find it very difficult to comprehend how the Dirt can be a successful movie, and here's why. The book itself, every page is the extreme depraved acts of humanity that you can imagine. A lot of them very funny. I love it. It's crazy stuff, Ozzy licking Nikki Sixx's piss, Ozzy snorting ants, fucking lots of girls together, all the really graphic stuff, right? If this movie, if they depict those things, which makes up the monster that is Motley Crue, then the film will come across as very misogynistic. If they don't, then the movie will be a watered down version of Motley Crue. So how are they going to balance it out? They can't really put these guys, when they became a successful rock band, they traveled the world, they did crazy stuff, because a lot of films have that story. But what made the Dirt and Motley Crue what they are is what they used to get up to.
Sure.
They're so fucking fucked up,
Oh, absolutely. I think the only safe chapters were from Mick Mars. The only time I wasn't reading about, fucking a burrito or anything, or accidentally killing somebody, was only in Mick Mars's chapters. I would hope it would be on something like Netflix. I can't see a major motion release doing it justice. Like, that was wasn't that the whole thing with 50 Shades of Grey? I mean, your book makes that seem like Highlights magazine, but 50 Shades of Grey is
pretty bad writing. I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I don't think about the content of things. I think about the wording I use. It's not about what's in it, sexual. So I don't understand. All I've read in my life is like fucking Sylvia Plath, Virginia Woolf, and Hunter S. Thompson,
Sure.
as well as like very theoretical. So 50 Shades is not even in my sort of. I don't. I
it's
understand.
an insult to you. I know that. I know it's an insult, but that's unfortunately what's more popular or accepted, I guess. But after that, I never read the book, never saw the movie, but just talking to female friends, it's like, what's the point? I guess it was just porn for moms, I guess.
McDonald's sells billions. It doesn't mean it's healthy food.
This is true. This is very true.
Kardashians have millions of fans. Doesn't mean there are very interesting artists whose work we should examine.
Very true. Very true.
People like stupid things. I don't mean in an insulting way, but I think people like something easy. It's just a vegging out time kind of thing.
Yeah, no, your book is not an easy read. I mean, it's easy if you know how to read and you're literate. It's not it's not like Tchaikovsky or something it's hard, but just it's some of the material and some of the things that you've gone through. That's what makes it difficult. And I think that's what makes a good book. I don't want just every book to be, Hop on Pop or Yertle the Turtle. I mean, this shows you where my where my learning has been. But so, I mean, that's why I appreciate, different kinds of horror movies. I will go out of my way to see the really fucked up horror movies, or graphic, because that's what I'm in the mood for. Or maybe I'll watch Goosebumps instead. I mean, it just depends. It's a different way of storytelling. And that's what I always would describe your book. It's a unique way of storytelling. It's not like, just because she's a female, it's different than Anthony Kiedis' book. It's different than Slash's book. It's the way it's written is just so different and unique, and made me think. And obviously, still to this day, and I just now happen to have a platform to be able to talk to you, which is just awesome for me. And do you do anything like weekly? Because I know you said you wrote for the HuffPo, but you don't put any sort of weekly columns, or I know you used to interview bands. Do you do that anymore at all?
No, recently I've been, HuffPost was stuff I wrote. Well, I interviewed Richard Ramirez, the serial killer, and I did the Ku Klux Klan, Syria. I wrote about epilepsy and things like that. So recently, I haven't done anything like light-hearted because I've been so involved in teaching and so involved in like academic stuff that my mind's been more on injustices. Because I just hate inequality. I get so angry by especially women who are so against women. It's really mind-boggling.
I find that very surprising. Yeah, I found that very surprising when I got some messages like that from other women, and I'm like, I'm not a woman. I can't really argue and tell her she's wrong for whatever she's believing. But I guess my thought process goes along with more with you, and it's not like the other hosts I've heard interview you where it just sounds like they're trying to get in your pants at the end of the interview, like the guy from the Young Turks. Hey, if I wasn't married, Persian women are so beautiful. Go fuck yourself. Like, be a professional. So it's my first interview was someone called Danny Bonaducci. Oh yeah. Shut up. Is it really? Was it Danny Partridge?
Can I say the C word?
Yes.
What a cunt.
I've heard nothing but bad things about Danny Bonaducci. Yeah, so I worked with a radio guy who worked with him back in the day, and yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things.
He was so rude to me. He was just, from the outset, he was just rude. And I was like, why is it? He's trying to get a reaction out of me.
Probably.
I don't understand.
No, the only reaction I want is what's organic from you and all my guests, so I appreciate that. So as far as the next book, is it finished? What do you still have to do with it? When can we expect it?
I have to call it something. It's finished.
In addition to that, so you just need a title?
Yeah.
Don't ask Neil Strauss. Don't ask him since you don't like his titles.
Not on the same page about anything. Neil was celebrity LA person. I am like reading Foucault and French philosophy person.
I gotta get you next time you're on, whether you're in studio or not. My journalist buddy Art Tavano, who's out in LA. I mean, I just got to get you guys to talk because he's always talking about misogyny here in America, and I don't know. I just feel like that would be an interesting episode next time you do come on. So I appreciate the willingness. I know you said it earlier in the interview. You never know at the end of the interview, but yeah, fuck this kid.
I need a break. I've been so busy. I'm actually also acting in a play. I just got the part yesterday of the main part of an Elizabethan play.
Oh, mazel tov.
Yeah. So I think I really need like a 1 week's vacation or something. I have a lot of friends in the US, a lot, who I made actually when they read my book, and I'm so grateful. It's literally the love I've gotten from my book. It's insane. I'm so grateful for it. And people who wrote to me with their own experiences, they think that I open up dialogue for people to talk about the roles of gender roles, in society, to break taboos, to break a lot of dominant narratives that are predominantly patriarchal. But I'm so grateful. I've made all these friends, and a lot of them live in the US and Australia and all over, really. So I'd love to just come to the US and maybe come to New York and see some of my friends in Vegas and LA. So yeah, it'd be great.
And you can sign my book. You can sign my own copy.
Yeah, and you can help me decide on a title for my new book.
I'm pretty good with that, I think, with coming up with names. I mean, I came up with Appetite for Distortion. That's pretty brilliant. Yeah. Well, I kind of somewhat stole it from GNR, so but.
It's so true that I do have an appetite for destruction, though.
Yeah.
If you look at my life, everything I do is putting my life in jeopardy. Everything I've done,
yeah. And
it's like self-harm. It's like I want to die. I want to be harmed in some way. It's really crazy. I don't know why I have this force within me. It's quite destructive. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. So maybe this putting my life in danger, going to Syria, going to Ku Klux Klan, going to Iran, is insane. What's wrong with me?
Maybe those are your highs instead of
an addiction is like an adrenaline high boost.
Maybe. I mean, I can give you my therapist's number if you want.
I talked to a therapist, and she said because as a child I was always on alert because we used to the Shah secret police used to raid homes, the soldiers were in our streets. I was addicted to that adrenaline. My brain is addicted to being on alert.
Oh wow.
I've always been on having to do things like coming to England as a child and just being on my own, and so I guess my brain has an addiction to epic epic adventures, things like that.
Gotcha. So, but you would say that the book has opened more doors than it's closed, because I know it was a risk, obviously for a variety of reasons. But it seems like it's opened more doors and giving you more opportunities, other than being on a death list in Iran, which is.
That's such a shame. 'Cause I really miss Iran so much, and I just miss it so much, and the beauty of it. And that's the one thing that I feel I jeopardized, and I can't go back. But has it closed doors? In some senses, yes, because yeah, but I don't care about those things. I care about the essence of what I do, which is, you know, fighting injustice, fighting misogyny, people's perceptions of women. I do love lecturing. I love teaching. I love, you know, talking about human rights and stuff. And I love being able to write more. I love that I was able to write for Huffington Post, for example, on things that I really wanted to. So in some ways it has opened doors, I guess. You have to stay true to yourself. I don't think you should sell yourself out. I got offered so many stupid things after my book came out. Write for FHM, write for Men's Magazine. And I was just, no, it's not me. It's not me. I don't like hollow shit. Right. I want to write real stuff, you know. So.
Yeah, no, I totally identify. Again, with my friend Art, he wants to write for real publications. He's like, I could write for Vice if I wanted to, or BuzzFeed, but I don't want to do that shit. So, I kind of understand that thought process, and I really appreciate that and respect that thought process immensely. So, once you come up with a title, whether it be from my own brain or yours or Neil Strauss's or whatever, please let me know. Is there anything, I guess, you want to get out there? Because thank you for talking to us. I know maybe we went a little. I know it's late for you because it's around 5 o'clock here in New York.
And there's an interview with Donald Trump I've got to watch. Oh, he's on. He's going to talk so much shit.
Well,
okay.
Is everything tremendous? Is the Russian thing is all fake news, right? It's probably the same stuff. Yeah.
I can't. You know, I don't know what to say. It's just.
We'll talk. Maybe we can talk. Here's a couple, because we involved this in the GNR podcast to show you things that we've done. We did an episode, politics, guns and politics, because GNR brought up a Trump piñata in Mexico City, and Slash and Duff have been very avid on Women's March, and those are things I think about. I'm like, Duff, I'm sure, you know, when he was younger, sleeping around, same thing with Slash, but, you know, they have kids now, so that changes, especially with Duff with daughters. And then people writing comments, so like, how can they say these things now? So, again, I think of all the ties, but I do want to get, and he has to pre-record this interview. He runs Slash's fan page out of Mexico. The page has like almost 300,000 likes, so it's like legit thing. He said he was at that show, the Mexican Trump show, and I want to interview him. He can read English, he can type it, he doesn't speak it that well. So I please just pre-record, you know, you telling us what Mexican Guns N' Roses fans think of Donald Trump. I would love to have that perspective, because I know it's an interesting view here in America. If there's anything anti-Trump, you see GNR's Facebook page, it's split right down the middle, like with everything else, even if you're a Guns N' Roses fan or not. So that's why another reason I like, more than just, you know, being intelligent, writing a good book, but your worldviews and where you've been, I think just adds more to this GNR universe that all started with just me seeing a cover. So it's just really cool to finally talk to you, and I can't wait to talk to you again and read your next book.
Thank you very much. No, thank you. I think my next book I'll have more. I have more power over it because I was not happy with the editing of Strauss and Boza. They wanted sensationalism a lot, and it's not me. I need to be a human being and be truthful. I can't just shock for shock's sake. So this one I have more control, and I hope it's a lot more me than the first book.
And the first one is a lot of you. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, but heavily edited to dumb down a lot of my writing. I mean, for example, I would write things like jaundiced lights, and they would say, no, write yellow. I'm like, yeah, but that's such a pedestrian way of talking. I want to say conjure up a feeling of how something felt. Jaundiced lights means it's a sickly place.
You're right.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't happy with, there was a lot of fighting. So hopefully that's what I have more control. And Jen, it's really nice to talk to you. I think, without sounding patronizing to anyone listening, because I'm a teacher, sorry, I do tend to lecture. I think this goes without saying, but we live in a world where there's so much bad news, there's bad things going on, and I think that without sounding like a total hippie, I just want to say, people just should stop before they start bitching at each other to actually, define a person by how they are as a human being, regardless of what color they are, what race they are, what sexuality they are, and what their image is like. Don't define them by their fame or what they're like. Just define them as a kind of a human being and what they do. So when people judge, just check yourself and go, well, do I know this person? Do I know does their sexuality define them as a human being? Does their, ethnicity, or does their race or their image or their clothing define them? People get lost in this complete maze of judgmental stuff. So,
No, you're right. And that's why I named this distortion. I identify more with distortion than destruction, because I have a weird view on things. That's why I've gone to therapy, and why I've integrated that narrative into this Guns N' Roses podcast, because that's what identified me with Axl. I gravitated. I mean, you found him sexually attractive. I mean, he's a handsome man, or at least, I was handsomer when he was younger. I mean, we all were. But I was drawn to the depression aspect, just the, maybe the anger aspect.
Right.
And people kind of misinterpreting that. Why is he so angry? And then you go back and read his childhood, and yes, that's not always an excuse, but what do you do with that? And just seeing his path and the art he's been able to create, and of course mistakes, we all make mistakes, so I identified with that. But before I let you go, I will say this is actually funny and kind of embarrassing a little bit. You said you had your first orgasm to a poster of Axl. So this is when I was
image of him on TV.
Oh, an image. Okay, an image. This is when I was living in Cape Cod doing radio, and I bought like a large Guns N' Roses poster, and it was just like Axl, obviously a youthful Axl, and he's wearing those bicycle pants, and doesn't have a shirt on or whatever. So I put it up in my room, and it's next to my computer, and then one day my roommate goes, "Why is Axl a dick in your face?" And I guess the way I put it up is that if I try, it's his giant bulge is just eye level with me, and I just had no idea, and then he just made me really self-conscious, so I took it down and I put it somewhere else, because every time I always turned my chair to watch TV, I just would see Mr. Brownstone staring me in the face. So so not quite the same experience you had, but I don't know. I felt it was worth mentioning, whatever that means.
No, I mean, there was a few questions about, Izzy and other things about me talking about the original members of Guns N' Roses. And I said I'd be killed if I wouldn't, but it's just, I don't want to, because I just want to protect people's privacy.
And I respect that. And whatever's, it's in a lot of stuff is in the book. Dizzy's in the book, Matt Sorum's in the book, who, look, I mean,
Steven Adler,
but the Matt Sorum thing, and I forgot who I mentioned this to. It probably was on the air, because we obviously compare, former members, past members, and Adler's quote touch to the drums, and Matt Sorum. So Matt Sorum, we always hear he's like a metronome, just like hitting it hard and just going like he's just a machine. And it just keeps made me think about, well, that's kind of how he had sex with Roxana. The way that she wrote about it was that he was just a metronome. Just like,
oh, bless him. He's great. He's lovely.
So that was a good story
like
about. What's that?
Steven Adler's like a baby. Izzy is just very shy. And Axl, and I'm not going to talk anymore about anyone else, because, I have to protect people's privacy.
No, I got it. No, you told us a story about, and I think you answered it about Axl signing your, I'm going to be more of a child than you. He signed your hoo-ha.
Yes.
And I guess any GNR fans, the Matt Storm thing is funny. I'm telling the Dizzy Reed stuff, read from start to finish, make your own decisions on
He
that.
doesn't even count. He wasn't even in the original Guns N' Roses.
That's fair. That's
He's
fair.
just a keyboardist. He's a fucking. He's just,
Just a
something-
keyboardist? Okay.
He's like an extra. He's like an extra.
I want to get him on the show sometime, so I can't say that in particular. But no, he's.
Oh, I said it. You didn't say anything.
Yeah, no,
I
no,
I don't really
I'm being
care.
facetious.
The amount of, his conduct or whatever was abusive, but.
That is not cool. No, it's not cool.
I mean,
yeah.
I have met, other members of Guns N' Roses recently who've been really much nicer to me and sexier too. So.
Well, I'll say you said this to me off the phone. You said, and it's not. I don't think it's gonna be anything bad saying now, and you can tell me it's not. You said you really haven't met a rock star that's like totally a gentleman. There may be various degrees of being nice, but you said probably Dave Grohl, but I've never met him. So
No, I've never met Dave.
I just thought that was funny.
I'm attracted to him in any way at all.
Okay, well,
He looks like a chipmunk.
that's fair. That's fair. I could say if a guy. I thought that's what I wanted to look. I wanted to look like Axl. I'm like, that's a handsome, good-looking man, like him and Johnny Depp. Like I would try to grow like. I wanted to grow my hair like Axl, my facial hair like Johnny Depp, and that was like during like my. That's when I read The Game. That was during like my real depression phase, and
Right.
then again reading your book and reading that you're a nerd, and not having sex until you were 24, and then living that rock star, quote unquote rock star life. I'm like, oh, I still have time to live my life. So it all kind of helped me in a weird way. So is there anything else you want to get out there? Where fans, because I know you're big on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. Is it just at Roxana Shirazi?
Yes, that's correct. And I've got my website too, where there's a lot of my articles on. I'm going to be really geeky now. Phallogocentrism, Ku Klux Klan, various other stuff that I've written about how a lot of people in the rock and roll world are Harvey Weinsteins, just a lot of other things. So yeah, roxanashirazi.co.uk is my website. Yay.
Yay, indeed. Roxana, this has been beyond a pleasure for me. I told you, I read like you keep saying it. It's just one of those things in this podcast, which has just been a unique experience for me that someone I either grew up listening to or reading about and then talking to them with this platform. So it's very cool to talk to and to quote unquote meet you. You're what I thought you would be, honestly. I know a lot of people don't think that, but I actually read your book. So you're what I thought you would be, and even if anything, nicer. So as I said before, you're always welcome back, whether it's in person or over the phone. I want to hear more about your next book, and of course, any rock star stories that you can share. We obviously, of course, here on the AFD show want to hear them.
Trust me, if I have a huge rock star story to share, but maybe in the years to come. I can't right now because I have to protect this person's privacy.
Okay. As long as you keep saying privacy like that, I'm okay. I like that. It's not an American thing. I say privacy. I like the word privacy. I'm going to start saying it.
It's English.
Hey, if fanny means something to you, if fanny means vagina to you, I had no idea. Like what you were talking, you said to that fan, you're like, what kind of joke is that? Izzy doesn't have a vagina. It was so
funny. I can't. Pussy. Yeah, it's like saying pussy. You know.
Right. So there have been some fun interactions with you and our listeners, and I did like that some people liked your comment to when someone's like, "Oh, her book made Izzy seem like a jerk," and you're like, "A jerk? Is sexual abuse make you a jerk?" And there are people who were in defense of you. So you had some fun interactions with our listeners up until this episode, and well, I'm sure we'll have more in the future. So again,
maybe they can think of a new title for my book.
Yeah, absolutely. Just nothing slut related, because that's just I don't know. That's every episode.
Brand, who talks a lot about him having sex with and naming the lot of women he's had sex with. He called his second book my second book, my bookie wook too. So.
Wait, I missed who said that. Who wrote that?
Russell Brand.
Well, that's Russell Brand. He's allowed to get away with that.
Yeah, I know. It's
that's
funny,
like
isn't it?
that's like his sentence. My bookie wookie too. I don't know.
It's funny.
Maybe you can do it. I don't know. Maybe you should call it Chinese democracy just to fuck with people.
No,
Or
I don't know.
Iranian democracy. What about that? No.
No, that just sounds stupid.
Okay. All right. I'll edit that part out. Probably not.
I might call it my Iranian body.
Okay.
Or I might call it Iranian woman, or I might call it the lonely epileptic. I don't know. I have to just think. Oh, it's so hard.
Well, you'll get there. You'll get there. You're a professional. You went to Oxford. I have faith in you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, pleasure has been all on this side of the pond, I guess I could say. And until next time.
Let's talk soon. Yeah.
You got it.
Okay, darling. Take care.
And there she goes, Roxana Shirazi. Amazing. I mean, all these years later, it's such another, if I may say, another cool moment for me doing this Guns N' Roses podcast. And someone who I was a fan of their work years ago, now I have a platform to talk to them and, exchange ideas and thoughts and have a cool conversation. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed being on it. It's my show, I guess. Well, I should say it's our show because I do want to mention the more people you tell about the AFD show, the bigger and better guests that we will have. That's how it works. That's when people found us after talking to Scott E, and then they go back and then more episodes, and then I'll get inboxes. Hey, what about this person to be interviewed? They may have a contact. So you are involved in making this show. So the best way to spread the word, tell your friends who like Guns N' Roses. If they're not a GNR fan, they're not your friend. You should follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and of course on SoundCloud, iHeart, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a review. If we get ranked in the top 150 in iTunes, we're going to be extremely visible. And that's going to mean better shows for you to listen to. And you're involved in the show because I want you to be a guest. I have mentioned this before, and there is a past episode you may recall where I interviewed Sir Kevin from Ireland. Just a fan. Yes, he is writing a book about GNR in his life, but he's just... he has a local band, local guitar shop, and he's just a normal dude, as he said. You don't have to be Roxana Shirazi, who is a published author. You don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to be Scott Ian. To be on the show. You have to have a good story, and I want to hear from you. So if you have a good story about your life that involves, of course, Guns N' Roses, hit me up. Let me know on Facebook and or Twitter. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next episode. And as far as the next episode of the AFD show is concerned, when will you hear it? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, well, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at The AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/The AFD Show.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.